Hey gang, Mortal Engines just hit theaters. Should you see it? What are our thoughts on it? It's fair to say, optimistically, they're mixed. Welcome back. We're going to talk about a movie that just came out that you guys can run out to the theaters, or not, and go see.
Or not.
Well, you know, it just depends on what you guys want to do. Yeah. We're going to be talking about Mortal Engines. Before we get into that, I do actually need to say a genuine thank you to Real D for inviting us to a screening.
Yeah.
Because these screenings are amazing, and they give us great food. We get to meet amazing people, and we genuinely have a good time.
Yeah,
but,
and I will say that if this is a movie you're really dedicated to seeing, possibly consider seeing it in 3D, because it did look cool.
Yeah, they actually did a good job with the conversion.
Something I will say about Mortal Engines is it looks cool. Mm-hmm. You were always not on board with this movie, from what I remember talking to you about it. I will say, I looked at the trailers, I'm like, the moving city thing looks cool to me. Yeah. The steampunky stuff looks cool to me. So I was like, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm about to read off the info for this, but yeah, basically as soon as this first trailer came out, December last year, that's when I vaguely remember that, because it was just a teaser of like the London chase. Yeah, I wasn't on board with it, but hey, maybe you guys are. Before we get into that, though, let's talk about the directors. Christian Rivers is written by Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, and with the writing credit, Peter Jackson.
I would like to point out that these are the three people that wrote the Lord of the Rings movies.
That's what they like to, from the people who brought you the Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, just pointing that out, that the same people that wrote Lord of the Rings wrote this movie. Just saying that real quick.
There you go. And the cast is Hera Hilmar, Hugo Weaving, Robert Sheehan, Stephen Lang. There's a bunch more people in there. Those are 4 biggies. And the synopsis reads as follows. In a post-apocalyptic world where cities ride on wheels and consume each other to survive, 2 people meet in London and try to stop a conspiracy. So the majority of this movie follows a young girl infiltrating London, which is now a moving city that has moved over from the UK to Europe. Yeah. They're at Europe now. And the whole world's gone to poop. And it's like 1,000 years after it's all gone to poop.
And kind of an obscure, we never really find out why the moving city situation was the correct response to why the world went to poop, because it's different than your typical nuclear devastation. It is important to point out that this is based on novels that I believe were published in the early 2000s. There's a whole bunch of these and prequel books, and they are targeted toward young adults.
Oh, yeah.
It is also worth pointing out that Peter Jackson got the rights to this about almost 10 years ago.
So he's been sitting on this.
Yeah,
or been chewing on it.
And if you think about the movies that were coming out almost 10 years ago, that makes sense.
Yeah, this would have been another young adult movie that kind of came out like The Fifth Wave, which that book was well regarded, but the movie, anybody remember that one? No, it came out January 2nd.
And I saw an interview where somebody asked him, like, why is now the right time to make Mortal Engines? And Peter Jackson was like, because I didn't want to lose the rights.
That's very true.
Yeah.
So you're getting a young girl who's infiltrating London and teams up with a young historian.
Sure.
And they go on an adventure so you are able to explore the world, this new world, through their eyes, and how people have adapted 1,000 years after the apocalypse with moving cities, flying cities, and more. Based on the trailer that we didn't see, there was a narration saying cities underwater too, which that never happened. Yeah. But overall thoughts. I'm gonna go to DJ first because I think you enjoyed this movie more than I did. Actually, I know you did.
I mean, that's a a low bar you're setting. But here's the thing. I think the director Christian Rivers is kind of like Peter Jackson's go-to special effects design guy.
Oh, wow.
He worked on the Lord of the Rings movie, Lord of the Rings, Hobbits, a lot of those movies. And so this is kind of him passing the baton to him. And I think this movie looks great. Everything about the production design, the cities look cool, the texture of everything looks cool, the costuming looks cool. It feels like if I was a kid, this world would definitely be a world I'd be like, oh, I want to explore every part of this. I see the appeal of the people that read the books, and if you were seeing the movies, seeing all these little details.
Is that based on you seeing the movie, or is that taking that idea and you're thinking like, oh, if this was in a book, I would want to...
I seen the movie. Seeing the movie got me into the idea of the moving cities. I wish there was a little bit more effort put into like the specifics of like why and like how maybe. Also, I think maybe if you didn't set it in our world, maybe it'd be a little bit easier to buy the concept. Once it's like, that's London, you're like, wait a second. But I think this movie will be good for kids in that, even though it gets, spoiler, it gets crazy violent. That stuff, I think they'll be into the world. That said, I think a skill, having watched this movie, I think a skill that Fran Walsh, Philippa Boyens, and Peter Jackson did not pick up on Lord of the Rings was the ability to edit themselves. Like, they try to fit the full book's worth of stuff into one movie, and so you don't really get to spend any time getting to know the characters in any meaningful way. The world looks cool, but you don't really spend any time in it to like understand the dynamics of how it is to live in these world, how it affects these characters, their worldview, any of that stuff. It's just a lot of run around, a lot of plot stuff, and a lot of like low tier young adult novel dialogue. And maybe that's these are the writers. Maybe they had better, I don't know. Fans of the books can correct me. Maybe the Lord of the Rings is better source material to adapt than Mortal Engines.
I mean, maybe, but also I really like King Kong.
Yeah.
I enjoy King Kong.
If you've seen it, that's also good source material. The original movie's great.
True.
Yeah.
So the current Rotten Tomatoes score we have is 35%, and
Yes,
personally,
as of this recording,
and personally, I would have put it lower. That's me, and I'm not going to be mean about that because that's not the point of doing a review. Just being honest. I went in with some expectations of it probably not being good, but our job is to review things, so I need to just take that and I throw it away. So when it opens, you get that scene from the trailer where you're seeing like London and the smaller cities, and you're getting an idea of where things are. Like, this is how these people understand the world.
Yeah.
And for a second, I'm like, you know what? Even though there's something just fundamentally just that doesn't make sense about this, throw that away. And you mentioned before we went in, a lot of this seems like an anime, like the larger than life storytelling, where it's like, does it quite make a lot of sense? Like, no, and that's okay, and like let's let it run.
Yeah.
And then people spoke. And I couldn't do it. Like, I couldn't do it anymore, because you're right. The world and a lot of the effort they put into like make it look cool and like fill out every area of it. It's like, this is super interesting. Yeah,
they were definitely way into the aesthetic of everything.
Yeah. And so as soon as people spoke, it's like, because it's beat by beat the same. You've seen this movie. You've seen this movie 100%. A million times over. It's exactly what you think. A girl who's a little rugged. You got the guy who's like, he can't even step on his own, walk around. You know, it's like, okay, like he's a moron, and like, and so they get in. Actually, this is the same opening to Ants, the Woody Allen animated movie. They get kicked out of the hive, and they got to walk their way back to the hive. That's what it is. They had to get back to London. And it's them exploring the world.
So the first 2/3 of the movie are ants, and then spoiler, the final third, they just decide to be Star Wars, like 100%. Like about halfway through the never-ending climax that every one of these big budget movies need, that climax that just doesn't seem to ever stop. You're like, wait, this is just Star Wars.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And like, we don't need to get into specifics
mostly New Hope, but a little bit of Empire Strikes Back, but 100% just Star Wars.
And I don't think this book series is big enough to pull off what a lot of other young adult series do, like Twilight. Like, okay, Twilight's an example where it's like, those movies
when you say big enough, you mean popular enough?
Popular enough, because in a movie like Twilight, or a movie
maybe
like
20 years ago.
Maybe 20 years ago, they could have done this, but they can't really now. Or Hunger Games, where like that was an international phenomenon.
Yeah.
Well, a lot of times in this movie, a character will show up and they'll have like a crazy look to them or something.
Yeah, like the camera will zoom in, the music will be whatever, and you're like, oh, this is probably a character from the book, I guess.
Everyone does one of those like video game pauses where it's like, and it's like, and they'll stay on that character. It's like, I don't know who this is. They haven't introduced their name. I think they said it once. Why should I care? Yeah. And it's like a lot of stuff. It's just like this really big ambiguous stuff. A lot of new vocabulary that's being thrown at you all the time, so you can understand the world.
This is one of those genre movies that loves its fantasy words. Yeah. Like, really invests into like, hey, what? This guy is basically just a bounty hunter, but what can I call him that makes it really strange and hard to remember? You know?
There's a lot of questions throughout the movie, and it doesn't take the time to ever answer them. If anything, it just keeps adding more, or it will throw away the question.
And the problem is, it's so invested in building out the world that it doesn't take any time to add any type of personality or depth to its characters in any way, shape, or form.
Also, a lot of just like big question marks. Like I have my just fundamental problem with, which people are going to call me out in the comments, which is fine, about the premise. If you can sell me on crazy premises, because I remember Valerian, City of a Thousand Planets, I'm like, what does that mean? And when I found out like what that that means. I'm like, that's super interesting. Okay, I don't know if that could ever happen, but that's a great premise. I think the movie's not good.
But Valerian is like 2/3 of a good movie, but we're talking about something else.
Something else. But I mean, you can take big ideas and you can boil them down so that people can understand them.
Yeah.
And this one, it keeps introducing them and just says, well, you should have already been on board from the start.
Turn into the sequel, and then we'll get to this. Yeah.
And there's just plot holes all over the place. Anyways, overall, I think this is I think it's a sloppy movie that's very pretty. And and I think the 3D actually was very competent, and I think it was really good. And a lot of the visual effects and like parts of the world building are interesting.
Yeah.
And it makes you want to learn a little bit more about the rest of the world, but I don't want to buy a movie ticket to go see it.
No, 100%. And also, there's a couple cities we're introduced to that I'm like, I like the idea of this. You should have worked a little bit more on the logistics, because this is basically literally a powder keg. But anyway.
Yeah, like it's super
dangerous. And like I feel like if people were actually to live here, they would have figured out a way to make it not like
a nightmare.
Yeah. Can I just take a second, because we like to be positive?
Yeah. So what's the positive?
Can I take a second to talk about easily my favorite character in the movie? And I don't think it's a spoiler, because they've been talking about. I've seen a bunch of other things talking about it.
It's a book too.
Exactly. It's played by Stephen Lang. It's a character named Shrike, and I didn't have almost any investment in any of the characters until Shrike showed up. And Shrike is such a weird idea, and it just comes. It's just like suddenly the Terminator shows up in a movie, and you're like, I didn't see this happening, and I got really into it. Like basically, his connection to the main character, his goals. All that are so strange and unique that it stood out from the rest of the movie, because the rest of the movie is pretty much boilerplate young adult stuff, dystopian fantasy. That stuff was so weird. I'm like, more of like you can get rid of at least 10 or 12 characters in this movie, but don't leave this one on the cutting room floor, because this is a guy. There's some potential here, and Stephen Lang does a good job with it. Again, it's none of it's aesthetically it's cool. It does cool things. The weirder stuff that this movie did interested me more, just because it was different. You know what I mean? Just because it was different than your typical.
I'd say my positive would be the world building.
Yeah.
And I think if you thinned it out a little bit, you would have had
a little bit, significantly.
You could have had something really interesting.
Hugo Weaving's character has a daughter that apparently is a big deal in the book, and you should have cut right out of this movie. and there's a character she hangs out.
Yeah, whatever.
Cut right out of the movie.
And cute boy or a hot boy who's an ass. That's there. It's like, don't care about any of it.
They introduce about 12 pirate characters that we don't need to have the time spent on them that they have spent on them. You know what this movie did make me want? A BioShock movie. Is that weird? Like about 30 minutes in this movie watching, I was like, you know what I'd want is a BioShock movie.
I do. I mean, I want a BioShock movie.
Because it's got that steampunk design, or I guess whatever.
But those are our positives. We do usually 4 total, like just like little quick summaries.
Yeah.
When it comes to negatives, it's the script. It's so, there's some stuff that's just so mind-numbingly plain. Like, both bumbling guy's attractive and he's smart, but not capable in a fight. So he's here. I guess that'll be his journey throughout this movie.
Yeah.
And then when he's like tagging along with the girl, he's like, "Oh man, you're so capable. Trip. Eat dirt." Like I don't know. Like it's just like sweet. Christ, can just anything happen that makes sense in this? And like, anyways, getting a little off track. I'm gonna start being mean. I don't need to. I think the script could be tighter. I think you could thin the herd when it comes to so many characters don't need to be in this movie. And third, lots of stuff just doesn't make sense. Lots of just like one flying city, whole infrastructure of it makes zero sense.
Yeah.
One threat.
Yeah.
One threat is all it needs. And like it's like built out of flammable fabric and loose wood.
All you need to do is like plug in something wrong and there'd be one spark and you're done.
And it's so and like in that scene there's a sign explaining like these are the no-nos and then no one followed it. Like it doesn't make that doesn't make any sense. There's like so much stuff they introduce that you can't even follow any of it. Like at one point they introduce different types of cities at nighttime, and then like you get like cooler looking cities. They're like those are fun. Yeah. But it keeps throwing it at you. You're just like,
yeah. This is a movie that desperately wants to be a series. Yeah. Yeah. That wants to be like not like a franchise, but literally like a TV show with like 13 episodes.
Yeah. But they couldn't afford it with like how big. This is literally how big this is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. The dialogue is my favorite one is because all of it's pretty like there's a pretty tin-eared dialogue. Everything's pretty like on the nose. But the one where they really whiffed it, they could have gotten away with something a little subtle, and they really whiffed it. There's a character that likes to collect doll parts, and one of the characters like, the little girl is like, "Where's the heart go?" And he's like, "It doesn't have a heart." I'm like, there you go, because he's whatever, like me. We got it. We were on board with it. I spent a good chunk of the movie trying to figure out a good metaphor for how the movie made me feel. And I told it to you after the movie, where it's like if you go to a concert, right? And like the stage goes dark and then these bright lights come on and the smoke's there and the drummer rises out from the stage and you're like, wow, this is amazing. And it's the most expensive, elaborate drum set you've ever seen in your life. And you're like, oh man, they're going all out and he's dressed to the nines. It's crazy. And then he pulls out 2 hammers and then plays offbeat with the hammers, destroying the drum kit. Like there's no rhythm to it. There's no musicality to it. And so it's like, I mean, like your presentation was good, but you might have wanted to learn to play the drums before you
That's a good
invested all that money into it.
That's a good quote on the box. It's the subtlety of a drummer playing with hammers.
Yeah. It's just a lot of the dialogue and characterization and plot is real tough to get through. If you caught this like
10 to 20 years ago.
Well, no, but if you were just like it was on TV and it was muted, you would just stop and be like, oh, man, that looks really cool.
Yeah, like in a bar.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
It was on at a Red Lobster.
That happened to me with Superman Returns. It was on. I did not enjoy that movie. And then a couple years later, I was doing stuff and it was on HBO. And I just stopped. And I'm like, oh, this movie looks cool.
Yeah, like the dentist. Yeah. You're just like, well, I can't go anywhere else. I guess it's the worst thing to look at.
So what would yours, what's on the box be?
Don't. That's mean.
Don't, please.
But
please
true.
Don't.
Just I gotta be nice.
I mean, you don't.
No, it's don't. Sorry, it's don't.
It's don't.
Just don't.
Yeah.
But if we were rated out of 10,
yeah, what would you get at? Wait. No. It's a 60-minute war. That's the war that ended everything.
True.
So out of 60.
8.
Wow, that even got a woof from Austin back there. Yeah.
9, maybe.
So what letter grade is that? F?
Very much. Very much.
Wow, I feel like that's a lower grade than you gave Transformers, maybe.
I mean...
You're like, I dispute that.
Well, then I'll change that one to this. I think it's just because our review of it made it more fun where we got to like tear into it, but since it's a little bit... We're trying to be spoiler-free.
So I would give this a C minus.
That is significantly higher than I thought.
Yeah, I'd give it a C minus. So that is a 40.
Oh, you do the math. I got that.
Is that a 40?
I made my number easy.
Is that a 40?
You're asking
35?
Austin's busy right now.
Yeah.
He can't help you. I got nothing here.
So 35-40. You'll let me know in the comments down below, but I'd give it a C minus.
Wait, it was a 60-minute war?
Yeah, so out of 60.
Probably.
So those were our thoughts on Mortal Engines, but if you've read the book, if you've seen the movie, let us know what you thought in the comments down below. I'm especially interested if you've read the book to see how it stacks up to your expectations.
Yeah, does like Fresno get wheels? Does Los Angeles get wheels?
I think America's been wiped out, from what I understand.
All of it? Yeah. Like Disneyland's not on wheels. You're telling me Disneyland's not on wheels?
Yeah, I'm just saying. I'm just telling you what I heard. But if you want to know more about what you heard about us, you're going to onlystupidanswers.com or patreon.com/onlystupidanswers for more exclusive content.
Right over here, you can click this thing.
Subscribe, click that bell notification, all that jazz. We'll see you next time.
Click it. I'm trying to click it for you, but I can't. That's not how it doesn't work on this side of the video. It works on that side of the video.